build better habits in four simple steps. In 1898, a psychologist named Edward Tornick conducted an experiment that would lay the foundation for our understanding of how habits form and the rules that guide our behavior. Thornick was interested in studying the behavior of animals and he started by working with cats. He would place each cat inside a device known as puzzle box. The box was designed so that the cat could escape through a door. But some simple act such as pulling at a loop of cord, pressing a level, or stepping on a platform. For example, one box contained a lever that, when pressed, would open a door on the side of the box. Once the door had been opened, the cat would dart out and run over the bowl of the food. Most cats wanted to escape as soon as they were placed inside the box. They would poke their nose into the corner, stick their paws through opening, and claw at the loose object. After a few minutes of exploration, the cat would happen to press the magical lever, the door would open, they would escape. Thornick tracked the behavior of each cat across many trials. In the beginning, the animals move around the box at random, but as soon as the lever had been pressed and the door opened, the process of learning begins. Gradually, each cat learned to associate the action of pressing the lever with the reward of escaping the box and getting to the food. After 20 to 30 trials, this behavior became so automatic and habitual that the cat could escape within a few seconds. For example, Thorndike noted Cat 12 noted the following times to perform the act: 160 seconds, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, 60, 15, 28, 30, 20, 30, 22, 11, 15, 20, so on. During the first three trials, the cat escaped in an average 1.5 minutes. During the last three trials, it escapes in an average of 6.3 seconds. With practice, each cat made fewer errors and their actions became quicker and more automatic. Rather than repeat the same mistake, the cat began to cut straight to the solution. From his studies, Tornick described the learning process by stating behavior followed by satisfying consequences tends to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. His work provides the perfect starting point for discussing how habits form in our own life. It also provides answer to some fundamental questions like what are habits and why does the brain bother building them all at all. Why your brain builds habit. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The process of habit formation begins with trials and error. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision: how do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you are not sure how to solve it. Like Thornic Cat, you're just trying things out to see what works. Neurological activity in the brain is high during this period. You are carefully analyzing the situation and making conscious decision about how to act, and you're taking in tons of new formation and trying to make sense it all. The brain is busy learning the most effective course of action. Occasionally, like a cat pressing on a lever, you stumble across a solution. You are feeling anxious and you discover that going for a run calms you down. You're mentally exhausted from a long day of work and you learn the playing video games relax you. You're exploring, then bam, a reward. After you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did I do right before that? This is the feedback loop behind all human behavior: try, fail, learn, try differently. With practice, the useless movement fade away and the useful actions get reinforced. That's a habit forming. Whenever you face a problem repeatedly, your brain begins to automate the process of solving. Your habits are just a series of automatic solutions that solve the problem and stresses you face regularly. As behavior scientist Jason Herrier writes, habits are simply reliable solution to recurring problems in our environment. As habits are created, the level of activity in the brain decreases. You learn to lock in on the cues that predict success and tune out everything else. When a similar situation arises in the future, you know exactly what to look for. There is no longer a need to analyze every angles of a situation. Your brain skips the process of trial and error and creates a mental rule. If this, then that. These cognitive scripts can be followed automatically whenever the situation is appropriate. Now, whenever you feel stress, you get the itch to run. As soon as you walk in the door from work, you grab the video game controller. A choice that once required effort is now automatic. A habit has been created. Habits are mental shortcuts learned from experience. In a sense, a habit is just a memory of the step you previously followed to solve a problem in the past. Whenever the conditions are right, you can draw on this memory and automatically apply the same solution. The primary reason the brain remember the past is to better predict what will work in the future. Habits formation is incredibly useful because the conscious mind is the bottleneck of the brain. It can only pay attention of one problem at a time. As a result, your brain is always working to preserve your conscious attention for whatever task is most essential. Whenever possible, the conscious mind likes to pawn off tasks of the non-conscious mind to do automatically. This is precisely what happens when a habit is formed. Habit reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. Despite their efficiency, some people still wonder about the benefits of habits. The argument goes like this: will habits make my life dull? I don't want to pigeonhole myself into a lifestyle I don't enjoy. Doesn't so much routine take away the vibrancy as spontaneity of life? Hardly. Such questions set up a false dichotomy. They make you think that you have to choose between building habits and attaining freedom. In reality, the two complement each other. Habits do not restrict freedom, they create it. In fact, the people who don't have their habit handle are often the ones with the least amount of freedom. Without good financial habit, you will always be struggling for the next dollar. Without good health habit, you will always seems to be short on energy. Without good learning habit, you will always feel like you are behind the curve. If you are always being forced to make decision about simple tasks: when should I work out, where do I go to write, when do I pay the bills, then you have less time for freedom. It's only by making the fundamental of life easier that you can create the mental space needed for free thinking and creativity. Conversely, when you have your habit day dial in and the basic of life are handled and done, your mind is free to focus on new challenges and master the next step of problem. Building habit in the present allow you to do more of what you want in the future. The science of how habits work. The process of building a habit can be divided into four simple steps: cue, carving, response, and reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve it. Cue, carving, response, reward. Time. Figure 5. All habits proceed through four stages in the same order: cue, craving, response, and reward. This four-step pattern is the backbone of every habit. This four-step pattern is the backbone of every habit, and your brain runs through these habits in the same order each time. First, there is the cue. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward. Our prehistoric ancestors were paying attention to cues that signal the location of primary reward like food, water, and sex. Today, we spend most of our time learning cues that predict secondary reward like money and fame, power and status, prize and approval, love and friendship, or a sense of personal satisfaction. Of course, these pursuits also indirectly improve our odds of survival and reproduction, which is the deeper motive behind everything we do. Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for hints of where rewards are allocated. Because the cue is the first indication that we are close to a reward, it naturally leads to a cravings. Cravings are the second step and they are the motivational force behind every habit. Without some levels of motivation or desire, without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state is it delivers. You do not crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feelings of relief it provides. You are not motivated by brushing your teeth, by rather by the feeling of a clean mouth. You do not want to turn on a television, you want to be entertained. Every craving is linked to the desire to change your internal state. This is an important point that we will discuss in detail later. Cravings differ from person to person in theory. Any piece of information could trigger cravings, but in practice, people are not motivated by the same cues. For a gambler, the sound of slot machines can be a potent trigger that sparks an intense waves of desire. For someone who rarely gambles, the jingles and chimes of the casino are just background noise. Cues are meaningless until they are interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the observer are what transform a cue into a craving. The third step is the response. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you are willing to expend, then you won't do it. Your response also depends on your ability. It sounds simple, but a habit can occur only if you are capable of doing it. If you want to dunk a basketball but can't jump high enough to reach the hoop, well, you are out of the luck. Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve two purposes. They satisfy us and they teach us. The first purpose of reward is to satisfy your craving. Yes, rewards provides benefits on their own. Foods and water delivers the energy you need to survive. Getting a promotion brings more money and respect. Getting in shape improve your health and your dating prospect, but the more immediate benefit is the reward satisfying your craving to eat or to gain status or to win approval. At least for a month, reward deliver contentment and relief from craving. Second, reward teaches how actions are worth remembering in the future. Your brain is a reward dictator. Your brain is a reward detector. As you go about your life, your sensory nerve system is continuously monitoring which actions satisfy your desire and deliver pleasure. Feelings of pleasures and disappointment are part of the feedback mechanism that helps your brain distinguish useful actions from useless ones. Rewards close the feedback loop and complete the habit cycle. It is a behavior is insufficient in any of the four stages. It will not become a habit. Eliminate the cue and your habit will never start. Reduce the craving and you won't experience enough motivation to act. Make the behavior difficult and you won't be able to do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy your desire, then you will have no reason to do it again in the future. Without the first three steps, a behavior will not occur. Without all four, a behavior will not be repeated. The habit loop: cue, cravings, response, reward. Figure 6. Figure 6. The four stages of habit are best described as a feedback loop. They form an endless cycle that is running every moment you are alive. This habit loop is continually scanning the environment, predicting that will happen next, trying out different responses and learning from the results. In summary, the cue triggers a craving which motivates a response which provides a reward which satisfies the cravings and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. Together, these four steps form a neurological feedback loop: cue, craving, and response, reward, cue, craving, response, reward that ultimately allow you to create automatic habit. This cycle is known as the habit loop. This is a four-step process. It's not something that happens occasionally, but rather it is an endless feedback loop that is running and active during every movement you are alive. Even now, the brain is continually scanning the environment, predicting what will happen next, trying out different responses and learning from the result. The entire process is completed in a split second, and we use it again and again without realizing everything that has been packed into the previous movement. We can split these four steps into two phases: the problem phase and the solution phase. The problem phase includes the cue and the craving, and it is when you realize that something needs to change. The solution phase includes the response and the reward, and it is when you take actions and achieve the change you desire. Problem phase: 1 cue, 2 cravings, solution phase response, and number 4 reward. All behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. Sometimes the problem is that you notice something good and you want to obtain it. Something the problem is that you are experiencing pain and you want to relieve it. Either way, the purpose of every habit is to solve the problem you face. In the table on the following page, you can see a few examples of what this look like in real life. Imagine walking into a dark room and flipping on the light switch. You have performed this simple habit so many times that is occur without thinking. You process through all four stages in the friction of a second. The urge to act striking you without thinking. Problem phase: Q. Your phone buzzes with a new text message. Number point two, craving, you want to learn the content of the message. Solution phase. Point three, response, you grab your phone and read the text. Point four, reward, you satisfy your craving to read the message. Grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing. Problem phase. Number one, Q, you are answering email. Point two, craving, you begin to feel stressed and overwhelmed by work. You want to feel in control. Solution phase. Point three, response, you bite your nails. Number four, reward, you satisfy your craving to reduce stress. Biting your nails becomes associated with your answering emails. Problem phase. Q, you wake up, craving, you want to feel alert. Response, you drink a cup of coffee. Reward, you satisfy your craving to feel to f- you satisfy your craving to feel alert. Drinking coffee becomes associated with waking up. Problem, you smells a donut shop as you walk down the street near your office. You begin to crave a donut. You, response, you buy a donut and eat it. Reward, you satisfy your craving to eat a donut. Buying a donut becomes associated with walking down the street near your office. Q, you hit a stumbling block on a project at work. Craving, you feel stuck and want to relieve your frustration. Response, you pull out your phone and check social media. Reward, you satisfy your craving to feel relief. Checking social media becomes associated with feelings stalled at work. Problem, Q, you walk into a dark room craving you want to be able to see. Solution fades. Response, you flip the light switch. Reward, you satisfy your craving to see. Turning off the light switch becomes associated with being in a dark room. By the time we become adult, we rarely notice the habits that are running our life. Most of us never give a second thought to the fact that we tie the same shoe first each morning, or unplug the toaster after each use, or always change into comfortable clothes after getting home from work. After decades of mental programming, we automatically slip into these patterns of thinking and acting. The four laws of behavior change. In the following chapter, we will see time and again how the four stages of cue, craving, response, and reward influence nearly everything we do each day. But before we do that, we need to transform these four steps into a practical framework that we can use to design good habits and eliminate bad ones. I refer to this framework as the four laws of behavioral change, and it provides a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. You can think of each law as a lever that influences human behavior. When the lever are in the right position, creating good habits is effortless. When they are in the wrong position, it is nearly impossible. How to create a good habit? The first law, cue, make it obvious. The second law, craving, make it attractive. The third law, response, make it easy. The fourth law, reward, make it satisfying. We can invert these laws to learn how to break a bad habit. How to break a bad habit? Inversion of the first law, cue, make it invisible. Inversion of a second law, craving, make it unattractive. Inversion of a third law, response, make it difficult. Inversion of a fourth law, reward, make it unsatisfying. It would be irresponsible for me to claim that these four laws are an exhaustive framework for changing any human behavior, but I think they are close. As you will soon see, the four laws of behavior change apply to nearly every field, from sports to politics, arts to medicine, comedy to management. These laws can be used no matter what challenge you are facing. There is no need for completely different strategies for each habit. Whenever you want to change your behavior, you can simply ask yourself, point number one, how can I make it obvious? Point number two, how can I make it attractive? Point number three, how can I make it easy? Point number four, how can I make it satisfying? If you have ever wondered, why don't I do what I say I'm going to do? Why don't I lose the weight or stop smoking or saying for retirement or start that side business? What do I say something is important but never seems to make time for it? The answer of those questions can be found somewhere in these four laws. The key to creating good habits and breaking bad ones is to understand these fundamental laws and how to alter them to your specification. Every goal is doomed to fail if it is goes against the grains of human nature. Your habits are shaped by the system in your life. In the chapter that follow, we will discuss these laws one by one and show how you can use them to create a system in which good habits emerge naturally and bad habits wither away. Chapter summary. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough time to become automatic. The ultimate purpose of the habits is to solve the problem of life with as little energy and effort as possible. Any habit can be broken down into a feedback loop that involves four steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. The four laws of behavior change are a simple set of rules we can use to build better habits. They are Number one, make it obvious. Number two, make it attractive. Number three, make it easy. Number four, make it satisfying. The first law, make it obvious. The man who didn't look right. The psychological the psychologist Gary Kellyan once told me a story about a woman who attended a family gathering. She had spent years working as a paramedic and upon arriving at the event took one look at her father-in-law and got very concerned. I don't like the way you look, she said. Her father-in-law, who was feeling perfectly fine, jokingly replied, well, I don't like your look either. No, she insisted, you need to go to the hospital now. A few hours later, the man was undergoing life saving surgery after an examination had revealed that he had a blockage to a major artery and was an immediate risk of a heart attack. Without his daughter in law intuition, he could have died. What did the paramedic see? How did she predict his impending heart attack? When major arteries are obstructed, the body focuses on sending blood on critical organisms and away from peripheral location near the surface of the skin. The result is a change in the pattern of distribution of blood in the face. After many years of working with people with heart failure, the woman had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize this pattern on sight. She couldn't explain what it was that she noticed in her father in law face, but she knew something was wrong. Similar stories exist in the other field. For example, military analysts can identify which blip on a radar screen is an enemy missile and which one is a plane from their own fleet, even though they are traveling at the same speed. Flying at the same altitude and look identical on radar, it's nearly every respect. During the Gulf War, Lieutenant Commander Michael Riley saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shoot down. Despite the fact that it looked exactly like the battleship owns planes on radar, he made the right call, but even his superior officer couldn't explain how he did it. Museum curators have been known to discern the difference between an authentic piece of art and an expertly produced counterfeit, even though they can't tell you precisely which details tip them off. Experienced radiologists can look at a brain scan and predict the area where a stroke will develop before any obvious signs are visible to the untrained eye. I have even heard of hairdressers noticing whether a client is pregnant based only on the feel of her hair. Based only on the feel of her hair. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is a continuously taking in your surrounding and analyzing the information it comes across. Wherever you are experiencing something repeatedly, like a paramedic seeing the face of a heart attack patient or a military analyst seeing a missile on the radar screen, your brain begins noticing what is important, sorting through the details and highlighting the relevant cues and cataloging that information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cue that predicts certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lesson learned through experience. We can't always explain what it is we are learning, but learning is happening all along the way, and your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation for every habit you have. We underestimate how much our brains and bodies can do without thinking. You do not tell your hair to grow, your heart to pump, your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest, and and yet your body handle all this and more on autopilot. You are much more than your conscious self. Consider hunger. How do you know when you are hungry? You don't necessarily have to see a cookie on the counter to release that it is time to eat. Appetite and hunger are governed non-consciously. Your body has a variety of feedback loops that gradually alert you when it is time to eat again, and that track what is going on around you and within you. Craving can arise thanks to hormones and chemicals circulating through your body. Suddenly, you are hungry, even though you are not quite sure what is tip you